we're going to turn it over to some community panelists. And we're going to start with someone who I've known for many years in my life, Reverend Danny Reeves, who I call Brother Danny. He was the pastor of the church I grew up in. And after I graduated high school, moved to First Baptist Corsicana, where he and his family live now. But recently has a really powerful story to tell. And after I heard that story, I reached out to him to see if he'd be willing to share it with our community, because I think there's value in his message. And he graciously and willingly accepted that invitation. And we're going to start with his story now. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brother Danny.
Mayor Meek, thank you so much for giving me the privilege to speak to you. I step before you today recovering from home. I'm in day 30 of my battle and journey with COVID-19, and it's a horrific story. There's not anything pleasant about it. And I step before you as a survivor. I never thought I would use that word, but I want to tell you just a little bit and then give you some encouragement so that you don't have to endure what I've endured. You see, back on July the 6th, I first had symptoms and body aches, all the things that you're told. I went to a local clinic. I was tested. I had COVID-19. The health department called and said, go ahead and go on home. You're healthy as can be, no underlying conditions, just hydrate and take vitamins. And I thought I would get over it. The truth is, I never thought I would get this. I'm disciplined in my health. I'm probably like a lot of people out there. I wasn't anti-vax by any stretch of the imagination. I encouraged a lot of people, especially senior adults, to move forward with the vaccination. But the truth was I was a bit cavalier. I just didn't think it would happen to me. And as I settled in, I had doctor friends come and make house calls. I received all the regimen of what you might expect to receive with antibiotic and steroid and albuterol treatments. But after 10 days into my quarantine, I realized that I was not winning the battle that COVID was. And so I desperately told my family, which I would never do, that I needed to go to the hospital. We chose Baylor Dallas because of connections that I had there, and I entered into a fight for my life. And when I tell you that, I don't say that lightly. In the dark, in my own bed, all alone in a COVID room, and I still get emotional about it. I fought for my life, and by God's grace and through just sheer determination and the good graces of extraordinary medical personnel, I sit before you today. 11 days in the hospital, 2 days and 2 nights in an ICU unit, suffering from severe sepsis as well as acute upper respiratory failure due to COVID-19. I saw the x-ray of my lungs because of pneumonia, and I knew I was in trouble. I fought to take breaths. I was sipping air off the top of my lungs, and just by the grace of God, as I say, and a lot of great respiratory therapy, I was able to get released. 10 days ago now, I've been here at my house. And but I'll tell you that COVID goes on. I have a full body rash in my upper body right now. I've lost a lot of hair. I've had my teeth loose in their sockets in my mouth. Most of that has begun to resolve itself, but I have begun to try to recover. My muscle weakness is extreme. I just want to tell you one thing, that I did not receive the vaccine because I was cavalier, and I was wrong. I didn't think it could touch me, but the truth is, if it can touch me, it can touch anybody. So I've asked God to use my story to encourage others, and I just simply want to say to anybody who's watching, it can impact you. It might impact you, and the best course of action for you is to take this vaccine. I know you have a choice. I know that you have the right to have something foreign put into your body, but I'm just asking you to learn from my story. You don't have to go through what I've gone through, and you can be protected from this. And I pray my story helps. I pray it encourages you. I pray you'll get the vaccine. God bless you, and thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Danny. That is very moving. And I just want to say how thankful we are that you are well and doing good. And I just can't thank you enough for coming to share your story. And I do believe God's going to use you. The next panelist we have today is Miss Karen Hicks, who is a leader in our Waco ISD school system. And she actually took time off of work today to participate in this press conference as well, and we are honored and thankful to have her. So with that, Ms. Hicks, we will turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mayor Meek. And I am very similar to Reverend Reeves. I too am a COVID-19 survivor. On December 25th, Christmas Day, I started manifesting symptoms. And I really didn't think anything, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. The vaccine hadn't come out. It looked like I was going to be one of those people who didn't have anything too much going on. Then came the time when I began to do the incessant coughing. I was having shortness of breath to the point where I've described it as feeling like you're suffocating while you're trying to lay in bed. I spent 3 weeks in my house in isolation by myself. And it's the mind games that your fears play on you. And also, back then, it was more difficult to obtain health care for me, although that I am fully insured. So, because you'd go in and some people would say, oh, we can't treat you. What I want to do is I want to encourage those people who perhaps are like me. You have other health impairments that you could be diabetic or have high blood pressure, or you could be perfectly healthy. I want to encourage them to take the vaccine. I was one of the persons who said, I don't know, they got through with that vaccine awfully quick. It didn't look like they took the time to fully vet it. I'm not sure about this, but the good Lord willing, he really did deal with me when I was in isolation and quarantine during that time. I realized that this is a fight for your life, that it's a fight for you to be able to do the things that you really, really want to do and to live your life to the fullest as God intended. And so I want to encourage everyone to take the vaccine. I encourage everyone as an African-American female, everyone in my community. I know that you have the choice, as Reverend Reeves was talking about. I was contemplating this, but it is so important for you to take care of your health first, not just for you, but for your children. I've heard that some of the patients are getting younger because they're not being vaccinated. And that scares me as a teacher, as a woman, as someone who has dealt with young people all of these years. I encourage everybody to go out and get this vaccine. I know that people are scared. All I can tell you is pray about it and go forward. I'm telling you, I spent many hours when I was in quarantine, realizing that I had to wait a significant amount of time to take the vaccine. So I want to encourage you and just tell you that for me, I took the Moderna, and the first injection, I had no problems whatsoever. The second time, the biggest thing I had was fatigue. And compared to the time I spent not being able to breathe, not being able to, being afraid to go to sleep on my back, or if I would fall on my back, it's the peace of mind that I have now. And the last thing, and I'm going to shut up, is just to tell you that about 2 weeks ago, I had an exposure again. It was such a relief because when I went back and got retested, I was negative. And that's my little testimony.
Ms. Hicks, that is so powerful. I just can't thank you enough for joining us today and saying that incredible story, that incredible testimony. We thank you. We thank you for joining us, and we thank you as you're gearing up to go back to school this year. Come on, one more thing.
I work at another school. It's year round, so we've been in school the whole time, and it's another level of peace when you're working in the community and in the public to just know that you have a measure of protection, even if the tragedy happens, you contract it again. Your symptoms are not going to be as severe.
Great. That's an excellent point. So thank you for what you do for our community, and thank you for that incredible story. Next, we have Miss Isabelle Lozano, who is a principal here in Waco ISD as well, and she is going to share her perspective and her thoughts. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Lozano.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Meek, for the opportunity to participate in this press conference. I would like to address my Hispanic community. I know some of you have been hesitant about being vaccinated. At first, I was hesitant too, but I chose to get vaccinated to protect the students, community members, and staff members that I work with on a daily basis. So this summer, something very hard happened. My husband lost two very close friends to COVID, and I have family members in Mexico that have been waiting patiently for the COVID vaccine. And we have the resources here in our city. And I want to address our community to please take advantage of it. Schedule your appointment today. Don't think about it. My husband and I, we went into CVS and got the Johnson & Johnson, and it was in and out. It was very easy. I had no side effects, and everybody said, Johnson, yeah, I had no side effects. And I'm so glad I took that leap of faith and got vaccinated. So thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And as you're getting geared up to go back to school this year too, we'll be thinking about you. Thanks for what you do for our kiddos at your school.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Next, we have Dr. Brad Holland, who is well known in our community for many regards and is very involved in our city, and I'm thankful for him. And with that, we will turn it to him.
Well, thank you, Mayor Meek, and to the many distinguished people that are on this panel, as well as my medical colleagues. It's a pleasure to be asked to speak a little bit today. My name is Brad Holland. I'm an otolaryngologist and head and neck surgeon who's practiced in Waco for almost 20 years. I'm serving currently as the Republican Party chairman for McLennan County, but I speak to you today as a physician and member of the McLennan County Medical Society and an elected leader of the Texas Medical Association. I'm a concerned physician today because, like every one of you, I am sick and tired of COVID and this pandemic, and am frustrated to the point I could spit that our numbers are once again rising. But I do want to talk with you about the vaccine and to tell you that I am vaccinated and every one of my family members and my kids are vaccinated. Now, like a good many of you, I don't like some of the changes this pandemic has forced upon our society. I don't like many of the actions that governments have had to take to deal with this public health crisis. And I agree very much with many of you who share the concerns of protecting our freedom and liberty as we protect our health now and in the future. But there's one thing about which I'm very certain, and that is that getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is a very good idea. It's a healthy idea, and it's one of the things that really could save your life or save someone in your family. Again, I share the concerns of those of you who are vehemently opposed to mandates and shutdowns and shelter-in-place orders and other coercions that seem foreign to us. We don't want to have to go back to that. But let me say this, to stay away from that, to avoid that, the best way to do so is to realize that vaccines do work against all strains of the virus, including the Delta variant. And really at this point, because it is here, you have two simple choices, to get vaccinated or to get infected. That's really what it's coming down to for each member of our community. Let me address the two arguments, though, that I hear in and out throughout my office and throughout the city about why people don't get vaccinated. The first is that the vaccine is experimental, not FDA approved. And yes, while the FDA approval is imminent and should come within the month for at least one of these vaccines, it is currently under emergency use authorization. But here's the thing. No health and safety concerns were cut in developing this vaccine. Only the bureaucratic red tape corners were cut to hasten the development of this vaccine to the public. And that's a key point. Those are the things we've always wanted to get rid of in the first place. The process of testing was rigorous and transparent, and I personally followed it very, very closely. You know, our own Congressman Bill Flores was actually a patient in phase 3 of the trial himself in the 2020. Now, let me also recall to you Operation Warp Speed. That was a victory, not of this administration, but of the previous administration, to hasten the development of the vaccine to an absolutely incredible time frame. And I predict it will be one of the biggest legacy pieces of the previous administration. The second argument I hear is that the government and our healthcare professionals are ignoring the impact of natural immunity. And nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, having COVID does give you more immunity over someone who has never had COVID, but there is excellent scientific proof that even if you've had COVID, you should get the vaccine. And as we've already heard today, the majority of those, vast majority, 97, 98% of those who are dealing with COVID or succumbing to COVID have not had the vaccine. It's protective by and large. Now, I thank God that we do live in a free nation, and the decision to get the vaccine is your decision. But please, I urge you, do get the vaccine so that we can end this wave, this pandemic, this perturbation of the great American life that this pandemic has caused, and so that we can all stop debating more government action to help slow its increase. I want to worship in my church. I want to travel far and wide with my family and friends. I want to eat in Waco restaurants. I want to lavish in the liberty that we are so fortunate to enjoy in this nation. And moreover, I want all of you hearing this to be able to do the same. But the simple truth is this: the more of you who choose to get vaccinated, the sooner life will finally return to normal once and for all of us. It truly is that simple. And so to those of you who are unvaccinated at this point, let me ask this of you. Won't you please talk to your doctor about your questions, your hesitancy, your concerns, consider taking the COVID-19 vaccine today. Do it for God, as we've heard from the pastor. Do it for our great country and for the great state of Texas, for McLennan County, and frankly, do it for your friends and neighbors. But please, getting vaccinated is truly the patriotic thing to do. Thank you.